Good evening. Why on earth are British MPs campaigning for a new airport to be built in Pakistan? Over the weekend, about 20 MPs demanded that the Pakistani government builds a new airport in Mirpur because their constituents shouldn't have to put up with taking a long-haul flight to Islamabad, then travelling 3 hours by car to get to Mirpur. Let's just break down the lunacy of this. So firstly, Mirpur is about 5,500 miles away from Britain. One of the MPs, Labour's Tahir Ali, has a constituency in Birmingham, a city where bins are currently not being collected.
Hey, janaab, Alam Rock, Zindabad. Kya baat hai? Wah, wah, wah. Ye janaab, Alam Rock. Dekh sakte hain.
41% of children in Birmingham are living in relative poverty. There is a pothole on a Midlands road that has been there longer than some of the people locked up in the local prison. So far, Tahir Ali's major contributions as an MP appear to be calling for blasphemy laws in Britain.
Last year, the United Nations Human Rights Council adopted a resolution condemning the desecration of religious texts, including the Quran. Will the Prime Minister commit to introducing measures to prohibit the desecration of all religious texts and the prophets of the Abrahamic religions?
He also said that Rishi Sunak had blood on his hands over Gaza.
Therefore, is it now not the time for the Prime Minister to admit that he has the blood of thousands of innocent people on his hands, and for him to commit to demanding an immediate ceasefire and an ending of UK's arms trade with Israel?
And now he's calling for a new airport in Pakistan. Magic. The second bit of nuttery here. Mirpur is, sadly, where many members of the Pakistani rape gangs reportedly came from. So, you know, those groups of men who've been raping and abusing predominantly working-class white girls on an industrial scale right across Britain. There is an argument with that in mind to suggest that maybe we should build an airport in Mirpur just so we can get a load of deportation flights sent there. The third bit of lunacy. 8 of the MPs who demanded a new airport in Pakistan apparently oppose a third runway at Heathrow. Most notably, hard-left MP Zara Sultana. She said that building a new runway in the midst of a climate emergency would be reckless, short-sighted and indefensible. But a new airport is fine as long as more people from Pakistan can come to Britain and vice versa. MP Tandezi put his name to this letter. Now, I would politely suggest to Mr Desi that this isn't really the best idea he's ever had. Now, the main religion in Mirpur is, of course, Islam, and he did not appear to be particularly popular with some Muslim constituents at the last election, as he found out when he turned up to canvass for votes at a local mosque.
My family have died in Palestine. No, you're not welcome. You're not welcome here. Get out. Leave, man. This is a place of worship. We don't need devils like you here. Move. Move from here. Get out. Get out. Move. Get out. You're not welcome. You're not welcome here. Silence, man.
Could it possibly be that Mr Desi is trying to win back favour with some of those people by supporting a new airport in Pakistan? I wonder. Well, to his credit, Labour Security Minister Dan Jarvis said he expects MPs to focus on more, quotes, local issues. Look, does this Mirpur airport story prove that for many MPs, especially those in the Labour Party or on the left, that their primary focus is trying to secure the votes of the British Pakistani community? Let's get thoughts from my panel. We've got Daily Express columnist Carol Malone. We've got former chairman of the Tory party, Sir Jake Berry, and former Labour Party advisor Matthew Larser. Carol, what do you make of this? Should they be focusing more on issues much closer to home?
Of course, you know, if I was a constituent in any of the constituencies that these people represent, I'd be furious. It is not there. You know, building an airport in Mirpur is nothing whatsoever to do with them. This guy, Tahir Ali, oh, no, that wasn't Tahir. It was
Tahir Ali was one of them.
That was
the first one,
yeah. Saying that, that a lot of his constituents have to get a plane to Islamabad. So what? They're going on holiday. Doesn't matter. Who cares? The airport's got nothing to do with them. You'd almost think that we're all getting something out of it. You'd almost think that, wouldn't you? But anyway, that's by the by. I'm sure they're not. But, if you lived in those countries, if you lived in Birmingham, for sure, where the streets are strewn with rubbish and there's giant-style rats and infestation and disease, you would think, I wonder how many conversations he's had with people there about that. I wonder what he's done to stop this strike, because we've been told the strike could go on well into the summer, which would be catastrophic. And tonight they were just saying it's almost a state of emergency there now. So you'd think he would be concentrating on that, not an airport 5,000 miles away that he wants to be built.
Jack, it doesn't do any favours to people who basically say, well, hang on a minute, a load of our MPs are much more focused on either foreign issues or appeasing aspects of the British Pakistani community than maybe everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is that we saw at the last election the sort of sectarianisation of British politics to some extent, with independent MPs being elected here in the United Kingdom just on the issue of Gaza, which, important issue that it is thousands of miles away from the UK and doesn't improve your local schools, your hospitals, your roads, get your bins emptied. So I would urge all of these MPs to focus on the issues of the people who elect them, which, the home issues to us were, when I was an MP, it was always the most important thing. And the other thing I think is really interesting about this letter is, of course, it was signed by 7 Northern MPs. Now, if you look back to the Chancellor's statements around Heathrow, that's all about investing in the south of England, creating growth in the south of England. Now, of course, if Boris Johnson were power, he'd say, well, let's level up the north, let's invest in the north. We have seen a demolishing of the programme to invest in our regions like the north of England, in Scotland and in Wales by this Labour government. Why are these northern MPs not calling on the government? Don't build an airport in Mirpur, invest in Manchester Airport. Get rid of this crazy business rate increase that the Chancellor's just laid upon Manchester Airport, going to cost it over £1 million a year. Do stuff like that. Help the people in the region you represent.
Yeah, well, what do you make of this? I mean, the argument, presumably, would be that actually, for a lot of the constituents in that Birmingham seat of Tahir Ali or around the Slough area, for example, an airport in Mirpur, believe it or not, is a primary focus for them.
Well, yeah, I mean, just to come back on what Jake said, I'm not going to be lectured by the Tories on investment in the north when, of course, Rishi Sunak famously went, as I think you wrote about in the your Express column this week, Jake, cancelled the HS2 link to the north of England. But
the Labour Party hasn't renewed it then, Matthew, has it?
Because you didn't leave any money to do it.
That's what these MPs
because you didn't leave any money to do it.
Invest in the north of England, not the north of Pakistan.
But, the reason that these MPs signed this letter was because they'd had approaches from their constituents, many of whom will have British Pakistani heritage, an airport in Mirpur is not my number one issue. It may be an issue of importance to those. But I have to say, particularly if you're a Birmingham MP at the moment, I think you'd have a laser-like focus, as Dan Jarvis says, on local issues. I can understand why they did it. I'm not sure that it was the moment to do it.
Starmer needs to tell these MPs to do their job they're paid to do, which is not represent people in Mirpur. But,
well, it's representing British people who want to go to Mirpur.
Yeah, but on holiday.
Or see their relatives.
Well, that's still on holiday. They don't live there, they live here. But the bottom line is, these are the same MPs who actually voted against the third runway on the basis of climate change and the basis that it was going to be disastrous for the planet. So what? Does Mirpur, does Pakistan get a pass on producing carbon emissions? Because here we're told we can't do it, and we're told it's appalling. And never mind the thousands of jobs that would be lost if it didn't go ahead in Heathrow. But so how can they argue that climate change is bad here, but it's not going to be bad in Mirpur?
Because they're complete and utter hypocrites.
Well, of course they are, and that's the point here. Because that's why I say, why are they doing this? Somebody needs to look at the Spectator did a piece asking why Zara Sultana, she used to be Labour, she's not now, she's independent, asking why she is so interested. We need to look further into this, into why they're so interested. I find it fascinating.
Well, because Mirpur's in Kashmir, and a lot of British Asians, British Pakistanis are from the Kashmir region, and there's often a lot of sort of pressure from Kashmiri communities. A lot of Labour MPs go on the trip out there. In fact, quite a lot of some Tories did it as well.
Another example of how domestic British politics is being run, or certainly massively influenced by foreign issues.
Well, I think the issue is that this is British politics being influenced in particular parts of the country by voters, British voters in those constituencies with votes who have that heritage.
These people should be representing the local community. Do you think more people in their community want flights to Mirpur or want the winter fuel payment back? Because if what they're doing is reacting to their constituents, why aren't they signing a letter saying, give every pensioner in my constituency...
To be fair to Zahra Sultana, she did vote against the cut to the winter fuel allowance.
And 19, every pensioner in my constituency their winter fuel payment. Do something to support your local people, give them their winter fuel payments back, stop banging on about things that are no concern of Britain. And I'll tell you, as someone who's been an MP, this will have spent 30 seconds in the hand of the Pakistani official or consul general who received it as he picked it up, screwed it in a ball and threw it in a bin. They will not care what these British MPs say. It's nonsense.
This is the same political class that enforces net zero on all of us. We have to pay more for our boilers. We have to pay more to do almost everything. And yet, Mirpur, Pakistan gets a pass on. They're cheering on for massive, massive building over there. The hypocrisy is staggering.
Can I ask you, Matthew, about, look, Tandezi, I think he's appeared on GBNews a couple of times. I've met him once or twice. Seems like a nice chap. Absolutely nothing against the guy personally at all. I think he seems like a nice guy. Had a very unfortunate experience in the run-up to the last election where he presented himself at a mosque canvassing for votes, as anyone is entitled to do, and really was hounded. I mean, it was awful. He was hounded out of there. He was called all sorts of things that I can't...
Because he's a Sikh.
Here. Yeah. And however, if you do look at the demographic, the major demographics of Mirpur, it appears really to me that he was now, despite experiencing that, going into bat for more people from that area who might be inclined to treat him that way here in Britain again. Is that unfair?
Well, I think that's a bit unfair, Patrick. I mean, the issue is he represents Slough, which is a very multi-ethnic community. He has Sikh constituents. He has Muslim constituents as well. I mean, I know what you mean, Jake, about people, but, let me just finish. If you represent a constituency with a large Jewish population, you're likely to take more of an interest in matters to do with Israel. If you have different populations in your constituency, mean that you will have different... some of your priorities will be different, but I'm sure that these MPs are all campaigning on different issues, and I'm sure Tahir Ali wants an end to the Birmingham bin strike, as does Keir Starmer.
Yeah, and look, hey, no doubt these MPs will say they can do more than one thing at once, and OK, fair enough. I just felt with numerous different things going on in the country at the moment, with various different public services in absolute crisis, with taxes going up, all of that maybe it was a bit tone deaf, but there we go.